Hello and welcome to another episode of the No Nay Never podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Bromley, and I'm joined this week by special guest and friend of the show, Mike Landers, who does a little bit of a deep dive into Burnley's January transfer window. It's been quite uneventful so far as we record tonight's episode. So, what do the Clarets actually need if they're going to survive this Premier League season? Indeed, do they need to invest, or looking at the league table, might it be better to save those pennies and reinvest in a squad next season to go again? We get Mike's thoughts and all of the thoughts of Burnley fans in this week's episode. Let's go. So let's kick off with another preview show where we're going to have a little bit of a discussion as well before we get into that daunting trip away to the Etihad on Wednesday. I am joined by our friend of the show, Mike Landers, and of course, our resident statistician, Dave Statman-Roberts. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Good evening.
Good to have you. Mike, I'm going to jump straight in with you. Because before we get on to preview the show, it's time we checked in with that wonder that is the January transfer window. In our analysis show last week, we had a look in depth about what our views were on what the Clarets needed, what we thought they should bring in, how we think we're doing. It's getting very, very close to the end of the transfer window, Mike, and we have so far had one incoming for Fofana, in from Chelsea, a striker. Quite a few fringe players going out on loan, a few of our young lads going up to our new partners at Dundee, which we'll come on to later on in the show. But so far, nothing yet concrete in terms of incoming. So I'm going to kick us off this segment with the same question that I asked Tom and Rich last week to get your views on it. How active would you be in this transfer window? Is it worth throwing money at it if we are going to just get relegated anyway?
It isn't worth it. I don't think it's worth it at all. I'm not as pessimistic as some have been about relegation.
That's interesting.
Well, no, I'm not. At the end of the day, I think there's still a chance. I think there's always a chance, and there are signs of, what they call it, the bright shoots of recovery and all that kind of stuff. But I don't see the players out there that we need. And I don't think we should rush into something just because, we've got to go out there and buy. I don't think that's what we play the hand we're dealt right now. And I don't think there's anyone out there where we want to go, we should have him. I think Ian Maatsen is the classic example. He's gone off to Borussia Dortmund, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he was offered to us, yeah, take him on. But I don't think he was. So
we can't have him now anyway because we got Fofana. You're only allowed one loan player.
Yeah, we're only allowed so many. But Maatsen is if Maatsen was available to us, yeah, we should have gone for him. But if he's not available to us, so we shouldn't really be casting around for a replacement. Also, I think the issues with the first team squad are not going to be fixed in a January transfer window. I think they're going to be fixed in a summer window where you've got more time. And finally, I just don't think the deals are out there. I don't think we're particularly in trouble with FFP, but I think everybody is worrying about FFP, buyers and sellers. So I don't think the market is there for us to do it. So just going out there and just getting someone for the sake of getting someone, waste of time.
I agree with that, apart from when it comes to the left-back situation, especially considering that the news surrounding Charlie Taylor is a little bit ambiguous at the moment, and there are some suggestions that he is going to be out for a lot longer than we perhaps thought he was going to be. We do not have an established left back at the club, so I think that for me becomes a certainty. Does that not change your view on that?
Yeah, Charlie Taylor, he might be the only left back at the club, but Vincent Kompany didn't want to play him at the start of the season.
Not true, and
so
to be fair, massive
like,
respect.
I think
but we now don't have him either because he's injured.
Yeah, I know. Now we don't have him anyway. So I don't know. I mean, like I say, if there's one there, but who's there? And how long are they going to take to get up to speed? How long, at the end of the day, I think it got to be an improvement on what's already there. And I know Alderkeel, I know we got Vitinho, they're all swapping around and stuff. Whoever comes in is going to take time to learn. They're going to get chucked in at the deep end. And if they're good enough, why are they coming to us right now? You know, if we're in the loan situation, we're here for if it's a loan, they're here for experience, which means they're not the kind of player we need. So I wouldn't say no, but I would say yes to just the first thing that comes on down the line anyway. We just have to cope with what we're going to cope with. I mean, we could be saying it's okay. We got Charlie Taylor till the end of the season, and he does his shoulder the first game in February, and then you are screwed anyway. So,
yeah, exactly. So I suppose, it's the Dean Marnie problem, isn't it? We said we wouldn't buy a central midfielder because we had Dean Marnie and he did his ACL, like he did his cruciate, like the game after
game,
we were
the very next
done.
game.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, though, that's difficult because we rolled the dice with that. We don't have to roll the dice with a left back. They told us at the beginning of the season when the Matson deal fell through that they were looking for a left back. Charlie Taylor has done an unbelievably professional job, by the way. I cannot respect that man anymore. He was third choice last season. He knew he wasn't on the cards. Nobody came in for him when we got relegated. Nobody came in for him in the summer. When we didn't get Matson, company was very public and came out and said, we will rectify the left back situation in January, and then expects Charlie Taylor to cover for the first half of the season. And what an unbelievably professional job that man has done. So I'm really sad that he has actually got injured because I think we would have been fine with him to the end of the season. But we don't need the benefit of hindsight. We've known since the summer we want a left back, and now Charlie Taylor's been injured for 3 weeks. So I think that's the one position I disagree. I think the rest of the comments, Mike, are absolutely sound. And I think the thing for me is all the transfer rumours that I've been hearing, and let's just recap on some of them. We've heard that Maxime Esteve, listen, regular known and ever listeners know my pronunciation's terrible, so I'm just going to caveat that now. Esteve, centre-back from Montpellier, he's supposed to be a done deal. Jaden Oosterveld from Fenerbahce, he's a left-back, so that might cover that problem. Callum O'Hare from Commentary, and somebody from Hearts, whose name I don't know because I cannot read my lawyer writing that I put down here. C-O-H, Crone, you know what? Don't know. That's quality content right there, listeners. Now, the problem with all of those, Mark, is exactly what you've identified, is that what we need, if we're going to bring players in to survive, what we need is grit, strength, experience, and just the ability to fight. I think this team is quite light physically and inexperienced mentally. If we aren't going to sign those players, I don't see the point in signing another 6 promising young players from Europe. We've got enough of those.
I completely agree. I don't do, I've said this before, I don't do social media, which means I don't bother with rumours.
We miss you though from social media, Mike. We miss you. Come back.
I did enjoy it. That was it. I probably enjoyed it a little too much. But anyway, I also enjoyed bits of it. But there are rumours, these are names. Right. I basically said a long time ago, when it comes to transfer rumours, print out a list of every player in the Belgian First Division and the French First Division, stick it on your back on the door and throw a dart at it. You are going to be more accurate than these people who are, quote, in the know.
Oh, my timeline is full of Twitter profiles who just basically copy and paste a rumour, credit that rumour with a picture they've nicked. And I'm like, why am I seeing the same things? We refuse to do that at None and Never Socials. We just refuse because it's just pointless.
And it's not just that. It's also, what was it? And I'm going to say this. On the 31st of December, a rumour comes out about Manuel Benson going off to Southampton, and everyone panics. And oh my God, that came from an account from a guy who specialises in transfer rumours, who runs a Patreon so you can get the great news.
Ooh, shocker!
Summed up the entire transfer rumour for
it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
And they're waving a scarf in the Bob Lord stand. That's the point at which I know it's real. Or nowadays is when they've got the hacking a movie together and
reveal video
and pasting their face in.
Yes,
which is all right. That's when I believe it. And we see these names. They are names we've never heard of, and they are names we're never hearing again. He says, holding a huge hostage to fortune there. But you know, like I say, they're just people who they're just names, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, because when we bought all the players last season, not the last transfer window going after relegation, we didn't know these people from Adam, and they turned out to be a brilliant team together. So it's kind of like it's not something I even bother getting wound up about anymore or even paying attention to. When they turn up, they got a number, great. I'll cheer them on at that point. Until then, nah, just
Wise
complete meh.
words from Mike Landers. Life lessons to live by, football fans. Don't you forget it. So, bearing that in mind, talking about a more positive approach to player development and squad rotation. Obviously, we've had the news this week that Burnley have got into partnership with Dundee United. It's a strategic alliance, which is a new one, for player development and to have more robust and thoughtful attitudes to player development. This to me, we've got 3 players already gone out there. They're young players. Owen Dodgson, Dara Costello, and Michael Mellon have all gone up there. Now, the idea being, Mike, obviously, is that they get more control over their development. They can control their game time, where they play, the coaching and development in there, share ideas, share strategy. Dundee can send some players down to us if they want to integrate them into the youth team. I suspect it's probably more going north than south, but, we don't know. I was quite surprised to see a somewhat meh attitude to this. This to me is a really good thing and something I think clubs should be doing more of.
I think it's an interesting one. The positive part of me agrees that potentially it's a development for, and let's be honest here, it's our players. It's not a development for that's going to benefit Dundee, because if
No.
if they give the choice, it's when they're going to play. They're going to play in the Premier League. Interestingly, the Scottish Premier League is rated higher than League One. In terms of European leagues, it is rated higher than League One, but less than the Championship by a fair way. It's not as good as MLS in terms of rating.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's quite a few places below the MLS, but it is a better pathway than League One.
Yes.
Plus, also, I think it's never a bad thing. I don't particularly. I'll not get started on ranting about the Ugly Sisters in Glasgow, but I think experience for our players in that kind of atmosphere, in that kind of thing, is not a bad thing.
Keeps them
Strategic
grounded
alliance,
as well, Mike, I think. It's not
yeah,
the glitz and glamour of the Premier League, it's reality.
yeah, absolutely. Dundee's actually a nice part of the world, Scotland's a nice part of the world. I think it's good for Burnley. That's the positive. The slightly negative is I've never heard of one of these strategic alliances working anywhere for anybody. I mean, Man
We could be
City
the
have got
first.
10 of them. I know we'll come on to them later, but they've got 10 of them around the world. And I'm not entirely sure they've been a particular pathway. Chelsea had the Vitesse Arnhem and things like that. So maybe it'll work. We also had one with Air United. Remember that?
We did. That never really got off the ground, though, did it?
That went as far as they had a third strip that was claret and blue. That was it. That was genuinely it.
Or maybe a collector's item at some point, like Mike.
Well, all that needs to happen is Dundee to find a diamond in the rough, the one diamond in the rough, and instead of them selling them to Celtic or Rangers, they can sell them to us. Great, that's good. So it's not a bad thing. I'm just my expectations are low.
I think a
Good
lot of
place
us
to go
are
for a pre-season
expectations.
friendly.
Exactly. That is very true, actually. Dundee in August. Very nice. Okay, Dave, I'm going to bring you in now because I'm very conscious that you've been sat here waiting very patiently. With your growing beard, sir, we're becoming bearded. Is this season having that much of an impact on you that it's literally stopped you having a shave? Are you fed up?
No, I'm just fluctuating at the moment.
Oh, okay, very good. Okay,
He's
quick
let
one
it
then
grow
before.
he's let it grow until we win one.
Oh, good Lord. It's going to be full on Santa Claus by the time we get to the end of the
I know.
season. Dave, a very quick one before we start moving on to the City preview. Give Mike a chance to have a little rest before we come back on to City specifically. Women's news today has come out that the Burnley women will be playing their final game of the season against Liverpool Feds again at Turf Moor. 21st of April. Tickets now on sale. You can get adults £10, kids £5. There are packages, I think, for hospitality, and essentially just a really cracking way to end the season. Good thing. Happy with this approach?
Well, yeah, I think really they should be playing closer to home. If they're playing at Leyland, which they seem to do for most of the
They do.
home games, it's quite a trek for most Burnley fans. I mean, for some it'll be more convenient, but for the majority, it's a little bit further away. But yeah, having the game on the turf at least one a season, maybe more. It's a good idea. Get some of the well, certainly get a bigger crowd. I don't think get massive crowds at Leyland. It's certainly a potential for getting a few more on at the turf, and maybe you'll be commentating again, Natalie.
I hope so. That, fingers crossed, that would be very good. I will be at the game if I'm not, but I would very much like to commentate again. We did have an explanation actually on the ground situation at the fan advisory board last week. The club reported, we had an update from Lola, the head of women's football at Burnley. The problem with having them closer to home is that there isn't a facility in Burnley that is able to meet the FA standard for their pitch rules and everything that you need to have. You know, even at tier 3 of women's football, you still have regulations that you have to meet. There just isn't a facility in Burnley that meets that. Despite the distance, we are incredibly lucky to have that facility. It's the FA's training ground at Leyland. It's a fantastic facility. Fine, we've got to pay for it, but there's nowhere else locally that's anywhere near as good as that and gives the women an opportunity to play at such a high level. So, you know, until that facility is either built or we have the ability protecting our pitch well enough to play at Turf Moor, actually Leyland's a very, very good pitch to play in. So that was an interesting update anyway. Max, a bit of a shame really yesterday, the Clarets lost their first game of the season yesterday, a real crunch game against Notts Forest, who've now taken a little bit of an initiative at the top of the table. But the Clarets very much trying to push for promotion. Do you think given how much the women's game is growing, there can be an increased excitement amongst Burnley fans general if we do get promoted? If we do get promoted, we're in the Championship next year. And that's one step away from the WSL. I know our chairman is desperate to get us the WSL team. Do you think we can have a really positive and bountiful fan base at Burnley for women's football?
I think we can. I mean, I have to confess, due to location and work, I don't follow the women's team as much as I should.
That's okay.
But I do follow their results. I do watch the highlights, and I would love to get to a game. And I was like, when you said, this is typical of my fandom, when you said they're playing at the turf, ears pricked up. And then you said 21st of April, I went, I'm not even in the country.
Oh no, what a shame.
I know, but I would be there otherwise. And that's the thing. I think the thing that's stopping it is, like you say, is the facility. If we had the facility in Burnley, I think you would have a lot more people there to watch it. I definitely think that there is the possibility of Women's Super League for Burnley, which I think would be absolutely amazing.
Can you imagine?
Absolutely.
Oh, don't.
It would be great. But I think a Burnley women's team at Championship level, brilliant. That is
that's impressive. Yeah,
it's a realistic possibility. And like I say, I haven't followed it as much as I perhaps should, and I really should, because I've watched obviously England women's football or the other games, and I just find the standard the game's really, really good.
And improving every year.
Absolutely. And I just wish that the team and the connection to the club in terms of location was better, and I think he would get that improvement. But as you say, I think without the club spending, I don't know, what would it cost? £3 million to buy to build a stadium? About that?
Possibly, probably, yeah.
If we could invest that, I think you would get it back.
Yeah, I think that's the key. It's going to take us building a facility. It's not going to take us. There's none in existence right now. We'd have to build it. And I guess the question mark becomes, if technology around full-size pitches in stadiums improves, and you do get to the position where pitches can stand the women's first team, the men's first team, the under-21s, development squads, all being able to play their weekly games at Turf Moor without a restriction or damage to the pitch, I think that's probably the better investment, because eventually you'd get everybody in there rather than build it. So I suspect that's probably something that's been thought of, but there's just no point yet. So, okay, well, listeners, if you are like Mike and you are interested, but you just haven't quite got yourself invested as much as you would like to, which is absolutely fine, by the way. Nobody cares when your journey starts. It's just that you get on that journey. Nobody cares. Come along. And what I would say is that have that one eye on that game at Turf Moor. We'll be covering it closer. Sorry, listeners, my cat is going crazy by my feet. We will be covering that closer to the time. In the meantime, we do have a home game at Leyland coming up against Newcastle, who are top of the league and who turned their team pro this year. Boo. And are investing heavily in getting themselves a WSL side. Let's leave it platonic. What's the word? Not platonically, that's something completely different. They are neutral. Yes, let's leave it like that. Thank you very much to everybody who has made this podcast possible, to my guests, Dave and Mike. Mike, friend of the show, who we adore, and we're hopefully going to get on much more, particularly as the season goes on, because always a pleasure to have him. To producer Matt, to FPL expert Adam Dennett, and to the rest of the None and Never team for helping us get here this evening. Tune in and keep an eye on socials for the next publication date. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the None and Never podcast. Until next time. The None and Never podcast is brought to you in association with the TalkSport Fan Network. Our host and editor is Natalie Bromley, and the show is produced by Matt Moss. Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts, and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The Analysis Show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Rich Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby, and Adam Dennett. Our music is provided by George Gaskell, and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting nonanever.substack.com. Thanks as ever go to our partners TalkSport. We are proud to be associated with the TalkSport Fan Network.